What's up, my friend? Welcome back to another video. And today's video was actually inspired by a recent question asked by a subscriber. And that question was, if you only had $1,000 to spend on sample libraries, which ones would you pick? And at first I was really racking my brains because, I've experienced quite a few sample libraries at this point. And so really trying to think about it down to the very, very core essentials under $1,000, what is possible? And so after a few minutes of thinking, I finally came up with an answer. And I think this is actually pretty funny that you can have literally any instrument you want for less than or exactly $1,000. So with that being said, let me actually show you what these libraries are that I would personally use, and then I'll share a sound demonstration of those libraries as well in case you are unfamiliar with them for any reason. So the very first library I would personally recommend is Cinematic Studio Strings. I think if you are working in orchestral music, it is very important to have a dedicated string library. And for me, I work in Contact. It's been the sample player I've used for the better part of almost a decade now. And so I think Cinematic Studio Strings is the library I continue to turn back to whenever I need realistic sounding strings with great legato, decent enough shorts and other articulations that serve the workhorse purpose for most orchestral mockups. So CSS is wonderful. It rarely goes on sale, I think, except for like Black Friday and maybe a couple other times, but $400 for a full-fledged string library is very, very reasonable. And this is the first library I would personally pick. I've done multiple videos on this library as well, but you can read everything about the library on their website, cinematicstudioseries.com. And it's truly fantastic. It's the one library I pretty much use on a near daily basis. So that is for strings. That would be the first library I would use. The second library I would purchase is definitely a woodwind library as well. And woodwinds, I think, are underutilized in the orchestra still today. More people are appreciating woodwinds, but I would love to hear more of them. And I actually use CSW the most in terms of woodwinds. So Cinematic Studio Woodwinds by the same developer is the second library I would purchase for $400. So that adds up to $800 now. We only have 200 left already, but I think it's truly worth it because I think CSW has something special. Beautiful quality, again, very, very beautiful legato, just like the string library. And the one thing to note is that the sound signature is a bit on the darker side. So you might have to do a little bit of EQ or something to just to brighten up the sound. But I think just for the playability factor and the legato itself, it's absolutely worth it. So that would be the second library I would personally pick. And then with the remaining $200, I would purchase Muzio. And funny enough, their Muzio 1 license is currently on sale at the time of this recording anyway. And they actually do quite a few sales, so you might be able to grab it at the same price. But for $199, you can get a perpetual license for Muzio, which contains all their Cinesamples libraries plus additional ones that they're coming out with now until they launch Muzio 2. So this is an extreme bargain, right? Because for $200, you can have the entire Cinesamples catalog, which normally, even just the Cine Symphony series itself, adds up to multiple thousands of dollars. And the additional libraries they're creating for Muzio, you're getting them free of charge when you purchase Muzio 1 up until Muzio 2 comes out. Now, if you have any of either the monthly plan, which is $10 a month, or the annual plan, $100 a year, which is 2 months free, then you're going to get their new libraries on an ongoing basis as long as you're subscribed, similar to Composer Cloud by East West. But a lot of people like owning something, paying for something once, and then owning it forever. And that's exactly what the perpetual license gives you. So for the remaining $200, I would highly recommend Muzio 1. It really gives you everything you need in terms of not just the orchestra, but pretty much everything else: pianos, drums, unique instruments, niche stuff that you can find all over the world. Like, it's pretty cool. So with that being said, let's kind of dive into Logic, and I'll show you some of these patches in action here. We'll start with CSS. We'll hear the violins and the cellos as well. Let me just go through a few of these articulations with you here. right? And the great thing about CSS is that it also comes with a Concertino emulation without taking up any extra space on your hard drive. So instead of like a doubled set of samples where they recorded real mutes basically on the strings, they have a Concertino emulation, which is essentially an EQ, I believe. So you can hear the overall sound, again, a little bit darker than some other libraries, but I think for the playability and the legato workflow, I'm very, very happy with it. Let's have just a quick listen to the cello legato as well. And I just want to note the mix mic position that loads up by default is like 99% of the time the one I stick to for my productions. I just think there's a really good balance of the room sound that they recorded this in, the track down scoring stage, I believe. And you really hear the detail in the strings as well, which is quite lovely. So that is CSS. And again, let's hear CSW now. So here's a solo flute. Just a gorgeous sound, really. The best flute that I personally have. A quick thing about the flute, actually. So I recently held a live recital back in June. And for the mock-up, I basically created a mock-up for each player I wrote music for. So for the piano and flute piece, I sent my friend Sophia, the flute player, a mock-up of the piece. And she's like, this library actually, the library sounds great. What library is it? It sounds so realistic. So I told her CSW and I sent her the link. So yeah, you know it's a good library when the musician themselves they are saying the mockup actually sounds good and the library sounds realistic, right? So quick listen here to the oboe as well. My favorite woodwind instrument probably. Yeah, I just can't get over how musical and lyrical that legato sounds. Like this is one of the only libraries, by the way, that I can close my eyes and the library can fool me into thinking it's a real player. Even with me just playing it right now, it sounds like a real player to me. And not a lot of libraries I think can do that well. So that's why I think the price tag of $400 for these libraries is extremely worth it, because you have these libraries for life. They give you the workhorse articulations, and for at least 80% of the work you have to do with your mockups, if you're doing like traditional orchestral stuff, John Williams, John Powell, Alan Silvestri, whatever it might be, these libraries will get you those results you're looking for. Keep in mind, though, they do not have all the different esoteric articulations, all the, weird things that you might not use on a regular basis, but for workhorse stuff, you can't really go wrong with these libraries. So CSS and CSW, highly, highly recommended. Now, have a quick look here at Muzio. So I'm going to record and enable the track. And so with Muzio, it's actually very easy to use, easier than some other platforms that I've experienced. You can either search up the library in question that you're looking for, or you can scroll through and take a look at the full catalog that comes included with your subscription, right? So the Cinesymphony stuff is usually at the very top, because that's sort of their flagship series of libraries. But then here you have everything else, drum machines, here like Iceland, Ireland, Voxos, a great choir library I've never actually purchased for Contact, electric pianos, and all this other stuff at your disposal. So I'm just going to play the brass and the percussion for you here, because I actually use these contact versions of the libraries for my own purposes for brass and percussion. I really, really like how Cinesamples has recorded those libraries. So if we go into instrument, we can see the instrument that's being currently selected. I'm going to go up here and select trumpet ensemble and solo up that track. Let's expand the view so we can see the MIDI channels and everything like that. And here you can see that I've loaded up the trumpet ensemble key switch patch. And just so, but before we play it, let me quickly show you how this structure works, by the way, in Muzio. All you need to do is just open up the library of your choice, let's say Cinebrass Core. You can either download the entire library, which naturally will take a longer time depending on your internet speed, or you can go to the patch you want and download just that one by itself, which is really, really cool, right? So I just wanted to download the trumpet ensemble patch. This one is a little bit larger, but they're all around 500 megabytes or so. And then the individual articulation patches are naturally going to be smaller, 100 megabytes or so, as you can see, because those are the articulations split out rather than having them all in one multi-patch with the multiple articulations. So let's have a quick listen to the trumpet ensemble here. We'll start with legato, and then we'll go through some of these other articulations as well. Right, so really, really cool. I just love how you can get access to the Cinesample stuff just by having a Muzio license. It's pretty neat. Again, very similar to East West Composer Cloud. If you already have that, then you're pretty much used to this, I guess, this pricing model, right, and the way it works. But it's cool to see Cinesamples has something similar. So let's have a listen to the solo horn as well. Again, this is part of Cinebrass Core, the brass library I use on a regular basis. Yeah, and I pretty much only use the legato patch for this library, from this library, I should say. It's so lyrical, so sweet, and I like how this horn really only stays in the quiet dynamic layers, like piano, around piano, MP at the very most. If you want the full dynamic range for the solo horn, then their Cinebrass Pro library would be the one you would turn to. But for most of my writing, if I need some solo horn, usually it's a more lyrical line, so the Cinebrass Core horn is my personal choice. And then for Cineperc, they basically split out their percussion library into these different modules. So a Cineperc Auxiliary, Epic, Metal, Orchestral, which is the traditional everyday stuff, and then Tonal as well, Cineperc Woods, and World. So like more ethnic instruments for the percussion. So quick listen here to the timpani. Hits. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the reason why these samples are mapped twice to different octaves is so that you can create your own rolls very quickly. Like, right, so all I'm doing is I'm pressing one, I'm pressing the other with my other hand, and then I'm pressing the first one again. 1, 2, 3, sort of like that. But of course, they have their own dedicated roll patches as well, but I'm just demonstrating the hits here very quickly. And by the way, if you want to have external effects like reverb, it's already turned on by default. You can always bypass it and then affect the decay, damping, and then wet or dry signal as well. And then finally, let's have a listen to the Piatti, which is these cymbals. So. And there we go, right? So yeah, I really do think that if you're very limited on budget, $1,000 is obviously an easy number to reference for this type of video, but depending on your personal budget, $2,000, $3,000, even less than maybe 1,000, so like $500, $200, whatever it is, you can get by certainly. I think if you have a budget of $200 or less, then going just with Muzio is a great way to go, right? If you have $200, invest in the perpetual license up front. You have it for life, that version of Muzio, and you have all this stuff available at your disposal. And if you don't have $200, you can only go month to month, then it might be worth going with the monthly or the annual plan. But I would say as soon as possible, if you want to do orchestral music full time, if you really want to make this your passion, right? Like if you really want to produce orchestral music, it would make sense to have a series of standalone libraries. So those libraries naturally would have more depth, more articulations, more recordings, so you have more at your disposal compared to just stripped down versions of libraries that may be cheaper and more affordable, but they won't get you as far naturally compared to some of the higher end libraries. And again, these higher end libraries can go anywhere from $1,000 up to $3,000, $4,000 at the very high end. But Cinematic Studio Series, their libraries are only $400 each. And so I think for the value you're getting is incredible. I don't think you can really get better for a cheaper price anywhere. So if I had to sum this all up, Cinematic Studio Series and Muzio. If you're on that limited budget, this is what I would do, okay? I hope that helps. Let me know if you have any questions about the libraries or if you have any suggestions for more fun videos like these. But of course, if you want to check out my sample library buyer's guide to sort of see the libraries I do use on a regular basis, in addition to the Cinematic Studio stuff or Muzio or whatever, then you can grab that for free down below in the description. I've included all the pricing in there as well for all these libraries that I personally recommend. And this guide has helped a lot of my students throughout the years. I'd love it for you to, I'd love for it to help you as well, in case you don't already have it. And yeah, you can just grab it down below and digest it, read it in an afternoon, whatever you want to do with it. It's there for you if you want it. So thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video, and I'll see you very, very soon. Take care.